Probably should have peed first.
Well, hold it now. Welcome to another recap, episode 5.
Yeah.
Season 35, episode 5. We're like...
This was a fun one.
We're a contender now. We made it through 5 episodes.
Yeah? How many are there? 12 or 13?
12,
We're almost halfway.
We'll find out. So, we start out in Canto, Vietnam. Open our clue, and we're going to what city?
Jaipur.
That's how he pronounced it. They didn't show it on the camera.
I don't know why whenever I read something in a different country, I just automatically think it needs to have a Spanish accent to it. And I saw the J, and for some reason I just said, Jaipur, India.
I'm like, that starts with a J, not an H.
You didn't even correct me, though. You're like, oh, I'll just let him have this
I wanted you to look dumb on the show, but they cut that out. So we're going to Jaipur, India, but first we had to take the worst ride in a vehicle in my entire life.
I thought for sure that guy was falling asleep. There was multiple times where I thought we were going off the road and then he'd swerve back. But we asked our camera guy, we were like, is he sleeping or what's going on? And he looks at him, he's like, no, he's fine. And so I guess that's just how he drives.
That cab ride from Canto to Ho Chi Minh, over 4 hours long, we're squished in the back seat, little car.
A lot of traffic.
I'm in the middle with my feet on the humps. Smythe's right next to me. Got the sound guy here. We're like sardines. It's so hot. We forgot to take motion sickness pills.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought I was just going to barf everywhere the whole time. I've had some bad vehicle rides in my life. I've ridden around in Iraq. This was the worst ride in a vehicle in my entire life. I'm going to just say it. I'm saying it.
And as a sympathetic puker, I'm glad you didn't throw up.
Oh, my
It would have made that ride much worse because we would have been swimming in it.
Oh. So we're all in the same flight from Ho Chi Minh to Jaipur.
Lucky for us, this time, that was the only flight getting into Jaipur. So,
yeah.
And when we got the lead at one point earlier in the race, we were like, oh, now we get the advantage. And then they brought it all back together with the boat ride. So
but this time it actually benefited us. So we were running out to the cabs from the airport. We got a pretty good cab driver. We told him to drive fast, and he was aggressive.
Oh, yeah, he was driving fast. And we were cheering him on, and our camera guy, not so much.
Yeah, the camera guy was like, just be safe. And we're like, screw
safety.
We want to win. You know he won't kill us.
The camera guy's like, oh, hold on, guys. We can go fast, but let's at least be safe. I don't want to die.
So we get there. We're like kind of in the middle of the pack, maybe towards the end of the pack, but in the middle of grabbing our sugarcane. Mm-hmm. We're running up to the top of the fort. The run was pretty steep. I don't know if you could tell how steep it was in the show.
For anybody that thinks that I was saying we had an advantage because I've touched sugarcane before, it was a joke.
We were messing around.
It was a joke.
He had touched sugarcane. That was true.
I have dealt with sugarcane before.
We didn't think it was an
I don't
advantage.
know how that helps you carry it up a hill. I don't know, but
so it was about a half mile, just under half a mile. I went and figured it out, and it was just under a half a mile from the base where we picked up the sugarcane to where we turned it into the elephant trainer, and he gave us our clue.
And it was nonstop upward climb.
Yeah, it was pretty fast. So we get up there, and now it's time for the dance. Tell us about the hot dance.
So we open up the clue, the roadblock, and it gives you the little tiny clue, who's ready to balance or whatever it was.
Who's feeling balanced. And
right away, I'm thinking, I've got great balance. If we're walking across a beam or something, I'll be just fine. It was my turn anyways if we're going back and forth, and so I was excited. I was like, I got this.
Yep.
We tear open the main clue, and it says, you're doing a dance.
We had balancing pots on your head, and I was so
Strauss was like, yeah! But you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Here's the deal. Neither of us are good dancers.
No.
Both of us were like dreading having to do a dance, which is why we avoided the sword dance in Bangkok. But even though I knew it was going to be tough for him, I was just glad it wasn't me.
Yeah, that was the biggest fight we had leading up to going on the Amazing Race was who was going to dance. And we argued over and over again about who has to dance. Neither one of us wanted to do it, but here I am.
You're doing the dance.
So I start, they giving me the pots. I tried balancing them. I felt pretty good about balancing them. But I needed to learn the dance moves. So, I pick an instructor. I was there with Ian was also doing the dances. So me and him had the same instructor.
Yep.
So we're practicing together. I feel like I learned the dance moves. It didn't take too long. I didn't have 100% confidence, but I felt good enough. So I went up and gave it a shot. And when I walked onto that mat, I saw that mustache of the Maharaja, and I just thought, I'm passing this on my first try, no doubt. I walk onto the mat, I look at him, give him a little head tip, did my mustache salute to him. He smiled at me, and I thought, this is it, first try. I don't care how bad I do, he's passing me. Look at our mustaches.
Yep.
So I get out there, I start going, and I had to flip and drop the pots.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't have dropped the pots, I'm sure he would have passed me.
He would have, there's no doubt. He loved your mustache. You loved his. You loved yours. There was a little thing happening.
There was a thing for sure. So I ended up, had to wait back in line again and give it a few tries. And so at one point, I think it was John was about to go, and he realized was he also the one that only had one pot on his head at one point?
Yeah, this first attempt he only had one pot.
So he also at one point didn't have his little sash that ties around your waist, which is part of the costume or the outfit you had to wear. He's about to go, and he realized, oh, I don't have it. And I think I was in line right behind him, or a couple behind him. And he turns around and he says, can I borrow your sash? And then immediately, the strategy comes into play, and I'm thinking, do I burn a bridge here and say, no, you better get out of line and go to the back of the line? But no, I took it off.
Nice guy that Smythe is.
I took it off, I was like, here you go ahead. And that was the one where he got it. He got past, him and Greg are all excited, they grab their clue, they take off. I spaced the fact that he had my sash, and I think it was Andrea turned around and she was like, he has your sash. So luckily, they say karma's a big thing in the race. Lucky for me, I let him borrow my sash, and I guess the good karma I got back was Andrea helping me, saying he has your sash. So I yelled at him, hey, and he brought it back.
Yeah.
So anyway, then eventually I finally passed it and was able to meet face to face with the Maharaja, and we really were able to appreciate each other's mustaches. Mm-hmm. And we moved on. And
while that pot dance was happening, Liam and I were off to the side strategizing. We knew the U-turn was coming up. I'm kind of surprised they didn't put this in the show, because Liam and I had a kind of an in-depth conversation about who we should be voting for with the upcoming U-turn vote. He had a team in mind. I had a different team in mind. We talked back and forth about it, and I wasn't sure if I won him over. I knew that I hadn't changed my mind, and I was hoping I had changed his mind, but time will tell.
Even to this point, like today...
Not the race,
but today, we don't know who other teams voted for.
We know who some of them voted for, but not all of them.
Well, we know what they told us they voted for.
True.
And so, assuming they told us the truth, we know who some people voted for, but...
Maybe we'll find out in the next episode.
See. I hope they
Stay tuned.
Yeah, I hope they show each person's vote.
They better.
I wonder how many we got.
None. I don't think we got any votes.
Well, we didn't... Well, there was a couple of times we could have burned bridges and we didn't, so we better not have gotten votes.
So from the pot dance, we had to go to Panamia Cocoon, or I think it was called. That was the staircases. We show up to the staircases with the well. It looked like that M.C. Escher painting with the staircases going every different direction. It was so awesome. It was
awesome, yeah.
I would have loved to sit there for like 30 minutes and just stared at it.
That would have been a lot of fun.
But instead, I looked at it for less than 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Took the clue, and we had to pick a detour. The all dolled up or the big picture. We picked the dolls because something told me that the big canvas or the big mural was going to be too detailed. I had just this inkling it was going to be too detailed.
We liked puzzles and we planned for puzzles, but at the same time, I don't know what it was. Something about the dolls made us just feel like
I don't like puzzles. You like puzzles.
You don't like puzzles?
Not as much as you.
Man, who are you?
We're learning things about each other even now. So
20 some years later.
Yeah, we get to the dolls. Todd and Ashley are there working on them. We quickly figured out that we should work on these dolls one at a time. Both of us working on dolls. It wouldn't have worked as well. We would have taken a lot longer.
Yeah, at the time,
separately.
At the time, we saw Todd and Ashley, and it looked like they were each working on their own individual doll. I just felt like, especially after doing the lotuses, I had this thought. I could have used an extra set of hands while making the lotuses, and so my thought with the dolls is the same thing. It's hard to hold a piece of cloth around a piece of wood while you're hammering a nail into it. And so we just thought it'd be a lot faster for us if we just worked together. So we just focused on one doll at a time, and we knocked them out pretty fast.
Yeah. We managed to get out of there before Todd and Ashley, and we arrived after them. Corey and Rob had run in at this point.
Yeah.
So, by the way, we have no idea at this point where we're at because we didn't know for sure what was going on at the other detour. We were picturing them finishing it and getting out of there.
Because of our timing getting to the dolls, we assumed that all the other teams had already finished this area and left. Nobody was in the dolls except for Todd and Ashley. We assumed that everybody that did the puzzle were already gone.
Yep.
So when Corey and Rob come running in, the panic sets in because now we know that we left the dance right before Corey. And so we know that, or in our minds, that's the last team that just walked in.
Yep.
So we got to knock these dolls out and get out of here and at least beat Corey and Rob to the mat. Luckily, we also beat Todd and Ashley out of there.
Yeah.
And so that gave us a little more confidence, a little more hope because we thought, okay, now we got 2 teams behind us.
And that fort where the detour was, the mural was not that far away from the dolls. It was a few minutes if you were walking, but everybody's running. But they're in the same vicinity. That fort's up on the very top of a hill. And our rickshaw struggled to get up to that hill. But now that at one point we almost got up out and pushed the thing. But now we're heading back down the hill after
Probably
we
because
finished
of our
the dolls.
amazing physiques.
Yeah, our physiques, our stature is why it struggled.
Because we weighed more than the rickshaw weighed.
We did. Well, maybe the same. But we're going now. We get to zoom down the hill and head to the pit stop, the Gator Ki Chararam something, and
that's what it was called.
That's pretty much what it was. And we get there, we show up, and it's like a maze inside of there. It took us a while to find Phil. There's a lot going on in that complex.
It almost reminded me of the very first pit stop where we had to go through doorways and search all over the place, and yeah, it took us a little bit to figure out where Phil was hiding from us.
And when we got there, and he told us, so we're expecting to be in like 8th, 7th.
Yeah, maybe we're thinking maybe we passed up another team besides Todd and Ashley and Corey and Rob, so maybe 7th, probably 8th.
When he said we're on the podium,
I could not figure out what he meant.
Yeah.
I was like, what does that mean?
I know what it means to be on a podium.
Right, yeah.
But for him to say
for
we're
it to
on the
make
podium,
sense when we know we're 7th or 8th.
It was like it didn't work.
Yeah.
My mind was like,
But then he says, you're the 3rd team to arrive, and we're like,
no
what?
way!
Like, we don't know how we passed up that many teams, and so it was pretty shocking to find out that we had jumped that much.
Meanwhile, while we're checking in on and the Holy Man, by the way.
Oh yeah.
We got to. I don't know who initiated, whether it was him or I who initiated it, but somehow I'm feeling his beard and he's feeling my beard. It was a moment. Okay.
It was cute.
Oh yeah, it was cute. And so, and then we also had 3 other teams meet us on the map.
Yeah.
When they ran in, I mean, the Philly Johns were right behind us. Todd and Ashley right behind them. And when Corey and Rob ran in, they knew they were done.
They were thinking the same thing as us. They were thinking it's between us, Todd and Ashley, and them.
Yep.
And so when they got in, the look on their face was kind of acceptance, like, well, we fought hard, and
they just looked so sad.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really cool for us to get to tell them they were still in.
Yeah.
And tell them what team they were at. And while this is all happening on the map, Phil mentions the U-turn. He tells us it's coming up, and he asked us, "Do you guys know who you're going to U-turn?" And we did know who we were going to vote for at this point.
Yeah, we had a couple teams in mind, but we're pretty solid on one over the other. And, I mean, we still kind of were going back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, but we didn't know who those other 3 teams on the map with us were going to vote for. They all indicated that they knew who they seemed very confident in their upcoming vote.
I feel like they seemed more confident than us.
Perhaps.
And I was curious, but nobody spoiled anything.
Yeah. So meanwhile, this is all happening. Cut to... The funniest part of this episode.
Oh, my favorite part of the entire episode.
Yeah, they've already switched to the dolls. They're sewing, and we almost lost an eye.
Yeah, Lena moved that needle, and of course she's focusing in on the doll. She moves it right towards Morgan as Morgan's leaning in. Almost gets her right in the eye.
I don't know how she didn't. It looked on the show. It looked like she stabbed her right in the eye.
I almost think, and I haven't asked Morgan about this, but I feel like it did hit her in the head, like right above her eye. And then, Lena, of course, says, well, don't get so close to me when I got this gigantic needle in my hand. And then Morgan's response was hilarious.
She's like, you're sewing so stupid.
You're sewing so stupid. And then I love the editing here. Because it immediately cuts from this fighting back and forth to the monkeys on top of the wall fighting back and forth. And then they fall off the wall.
And then Ian and Joe are like, what?
Ian and Joe are like in shock, like, did that just happen?
If The Amazing Race doesn't win an Emmy for best photography or whatever they call that, for that scene right there, then there's no justice in the world, because that was so perfect. Good. So, good segue to the race. The race between Lena and Morgan and Joe and Ian. We knew that it was close. We didn't know how close it was until we watched the show. And we have spent a lot of time on Google Maps and Google Street View, and we have figured out exactly where the shortcut happened, what it was, which way they went, and how Lena and Morgan were able to pass them. So if you look, they're coming up to this intersection where they're going to have to turn right, but Joe and Ian went straight and got stuck at the light. Lena and Morgan's driver took a shortcut. He completely bypassed the red light.
In that moment, you can see kind of the shock on both teams' faces, like, Lena and Morgan are thinking, wait a minute, why are we going this way when they're going that way? Like, they're worried that they're going the wrong way now. Yeah. Ian and Joe are thinking, they just turned right. Do we need to turn right? What's going on? Like, so they're also worried, are we going the wrong way? And neither one of them knows what's about to happen. And, oh man, it was an awesome race towards the finish line.
It really, what it came down to, I think, is that Joe and Ian's rickshaw driver went the correct way. That was the correct way to drive to the temple. But Lena and Morgan's cab driver did know a shortcut, and he cut that corner off, and they didn't get stuck at the light, and that made all the difference. Yeah. So it was sad for us when we found out Ian and Joe didn't make it. So I think it's a good time to give a little tribute to Ian and Joe.
Let's do it.
Shall we? When Ian and Joe got eliminated, this was sad. Up to this point, no team had got eliminated that we had a tight bond with. We had worked with Ian and Joe. We were in first and second place with them in Vietnam. We had strategized with them. We had joked around with them. We'd become good buddies with them.
They gave us the inside tip on the 150 flight or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and so we were the only two teams on that flight, all because they found out about it and were able to give us that tip. So
he gave me the knee brace that I was wearing because I had jacked up my knee in Thailand in the massage. Thank you. And never got to return the knee brace to him, but oh well. We were good. We were good friends with them, and it really did hurt when we found out they were gone. It was like, crap, man.
They were just a lot of fun too. They brought a lot of humor in. Anytime we had an interaction with them, they were just fun to talk to.
Yeah. Here's to you, Ian and Joe.
We miss you.
And here's a little tribute from Ian and Joe themselves.
Hey, Joel and Garrett and everybody else. We just landed here, actually, in Long Beach.
LAX. We're actually at the right airport this time.
LAX, just kidding. And we are about to leave, jump in a cab, and hope we're going to head in the right direction. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We made it to our destination without a hitch. So
Thanks to Uber.
We've picked up a few things since being on the race.
Yeah, like our phones.
Like our phones and technology. But hey, listen, what a crazy ending that was, huh? Morgan and Lena, the rickshaw race. It was absolutely wild times.
If you're going to go out in style.
Right. I mean, that's what the race is all about. It was so fun. We were watching it with some other cast members and some previous racers, and it was just the coolest thing, the most fun thing to watch, and so we're really coming off of a high. It was absolutely epic.
Yeah, we're leaving.
Iconic.
Yeah, definitely iconic. We're leaving with heads held high. Such a great experience.
And we love everybody.
Yeah.
And we hope to see you soon. Mwah!
See you guys.
So the last thing I want to tell you about is when we finished those dolls before we did our little puppet show. We were tired.
Tired.
Luckily, there was a couch there as we ran over to the puppet.
We thought.
The camel, you see it on the episode, but there's a camel just laying in that little area that we were at. We were running towards the puppet show area to do our puppet show, and we almost ran into what we thought was a couch because we just saw it out of the corner of our eye, this big thing. And all of a sudden, right before we run into it, we're like, oh my gosh, it's a camel.
Yeah, we almost crashed into that camel. We were going to just take a nap on the couch or something. I don't know what we were thinking, but our minds were focused, not on what was around us. We knocked out that puppet show. So thanks for tuning in to our recap once again. Stay tuned, and we're happy you're here with us on Team Joel and Garrett, the best team, right?
Yes, sir. I peed my pants.